government, they have nothing. Everything they get and want to give to somebody else, they have to steal it from somebody. That's called taxation. Well, a lot of people on the receiving end right now are starting to wake up, and they're getting very, very worried, and they should be. But they're not worried the same way you are. You're worried because the government's just going to come down harder on you, invade your privacy, and take away more freedoms, and tax you more, and all this. But the others are worried about, well, where's the gravy train going to be? But we can work hard to convince everybody that it's in their interest. We will have a chance to restore our constitutional liberties here when the people believe it's in their best interest to do so. For so long, we've had this great prosperity because we've had a fair amount of freedom, and we still do have wealth in this country, which is rapidly shrinking. And if they recognize that the wealth is shrinking, we have to get them to understand that it's the government's fault. It's not the people's fault for this kind of a condition. But it's our responsibility to deal with the government. That means we have to change the government. We can't allow them to move in the wrong direction. Because even today, there are those in power who know exactly what we know about the financial monetary system, and they know a new monetary system is coming, and they're planning it. They're planning it to put it under the UN and the IMF and the World Bank. This is the reason I've had a bill in for as long as I've been in Congress, and that is, get out of all those entangling lines, get out of the U.S. One of the things that I've talked about for a long time, and I think it's so important, is to understand why we face this problem, why there's such division in Washington. It's because they have come to the conclusion that there's different types of liberty. If you talk about speech, you talk about political speech and commercial speech. Commercial speech you're allowed to regulate, but political speech you're not supposed to. Some people protect personal liberties, others protect economic liberties. It's one and the same because we're individuals. We're born with our right to life and right to liberty. We are born with our liberty. Those liberties come from our Creator or in the natural way. When government takes over to do these things that we're supposed to do for ourselves, they can't do it without undermining your personal liberty. What we need is a concept that liberty is individual. This is why I object to talking about people in a collective way. You have liberties because you belong to this group and this group. You don't have liberties for that person, but you never should punish a group because they belong to a group. We should recognize the individuality of people. The other great thing about a freedom movement is it's based on nonviolence. You can't use violence to have your way, and the government shouldn't either. Yeah. The other thing is, for it to work, and I was challenged there tonight, you have to be tolerant of other people and how they live. You can object to it, you can not participate in it, you can teach your children, but you shouldn't be in the position where you say, I know what's best for you and I know how you're supposed to live. For a lot of people to do is to tolerate people who do things that they don't like. We do it pretty well with religion, except sometimes they want to blame the Islamic religion completely and totally instead of a few radical Islamists for their problems. So you can't give blanket accusations, and we shouldn't punish and we shouldn't reward people because they belong to the group. We deserve our liberties because we're an individual deserving that right, and that should be the purpose of government. We can close. I can close tonight by saying that I continue to be encouraged. Discouraged when I'm in Washington. I see the problems and the difficulty. It's disgusting about what's going on with these wars. Today, though, we've introduced legislation. There were 7 Republicans and 7 Democrats on the purpose of making it, bipartisan. And that is to force the administration to devise a plan to start coming home from Afghanistan. a lot of people who still think in leadership in both parties in Washington. They still support a lot of all this militarism and protecting our interests overseas. One problem that we face, and I'm sure most of you understand this, is that the leadership and the parties seem to endorse those principles that we ascribe to. That is, both parties endorse foreign intervention. Both parties endorse the Federal Reserve. Both parties endorse entitlement system. Both parties don't care about us as individuals. So therefore, it is important to break loose from that, and we don't have to compromise in any way. I believe we have to stand firm, but I do believe that you can work with people. So if I can find 7 other Democrats and 7 Republicans can work together because they absolutely believe on principle and agree with us on that, we must do it. This is the exciting thing about the monetary issue. Nobody's addressed this before. We're making fantastic progress because of the work that you have done.
Because of you, Ron! Because of you!
In the House. We had a lot of Democrats supporting it. Transparency is a good term to use both for Republicans and Democrats. We need a lot more transparency to know how they passed out those trillions of dollars to everybody. And believe me, I have a position now that's slightly better than it has been before in the subcommittee, and I will be doing my darndest to find out exactly what they've been doing for all these years. Knowledge and communications, I think it's called the internet or something like that. And because of the education that's been going on and the determination and the growth of the numbers of people who are interested, it's just fantastic. So as long as I see that growth, I'm not going to be discouraged. So I'm going to do my very best, and I encourage you to take the responsibility upon yourself, because every one of us, you have more responsibility than anybody else. The majority of the people in all societies never get interested in issues. It's a small number of people who have to spread the word and lead the charge. So you have a responsibility, and don't ask me what you're supposed to do, because you've got to figure it out. If you're prepared, know the answer, somebody will use you, there will be a job, and there will be something to do, because each and every one of us has that responsibility. I want to thank you very much for coming and hanging out tonight. I love seeing you here.